Ann Coulter's Berkeley speech has been canceled because she couldn't be protected. Interesting. You got to wonder, if it were a radical liberal, would there have been an issue? It's only when you question leftist dogma that the dogs come out. Call it a victory for the Sharia snowflakes on campus, because even canceling as a safety precaution is still blocking free speech. Fear won. In fear of what exactly?
I'm here to protest the Trump administration, all the lies, things that they're hiding. I feel like if he releases his tax documents, we'll be able to find reasons. We have reasons to believe that there's collusion with foreign states. Chicken mouth is because Donald Trump is afraid to show his taxes, being a chicken.
It's a good look. So let's assess the safety argument. They can't protect the right, but have no problem protecting the left. Imagine calling 911 and the operator says, someone's on their way unless you voted Trump. But the concern for violence is actually pretty real. The modern progressive movement believes that dissenting language is objectionable, which then removes the brakes between anger and violence. Consider this simple equation. You stub your toe. What do? Generally, you swear. But imagine if you couldn't swear. Then what would you do? You pound the table. You punch the wall. That's what happens when language is cut out from the equation. You have violence. Language turned apes like us into civil creatures. And the regressive left has us reverting to cavemen by caving into enforced silence. It's not going to last. The campus left now faces an opposition once stuck on message boards, cable news, and talk radio. The new right is coming, and not to sing folk songs. I blame it on safe spaces. By silencing speech, the new left makes life more dangerous by leaving violence as the only option. Maybe that's what they want. All right, KG,
Yes.
We now have a bona fide anti-free speech movement. I mean, this is now for real. It's actually happening. We used to have a free speech movement. This is the reverse.
Yeah, it's really a free speech epidemic because free speech is under siege in this country, and it's dead at universities. And this was the place where you went to really open your mind, to be able to listen to other people, maybe disagree with them, maybe vehemently, but at least you let them speak and you listen to them. Now what we're seeing is they're using the threats of violence and saying, oh, there's going to be violence here, therefore we're going to censor your speech because we believe that what we think and our ideology is superior to yours, and we don't want to hear it out in front of all these students where you're going to pollute their minds with conservative ideas.
You know, Juan, they say they're worried about a threat of violence, but in a way, isn't that a cop-out, that what they're basically saying is they don't want to defend or have to deal with this headache, which is free speech?
Well, I just don't see there's any way to defend this. I mean, to me, free speech is such an important tenet of our democracy. You've got to have free debate, free speech. And I will note here that people like Bill Maher to Chris Matthews on the left have said that Berkeley's out of control here, that this is wrong, you can't do this.
But then why does it happen? If there are left icons like those two, how come it's still happening? There is some support from the left for this. The regressive left still seems to be growing.
No. In fact, I think what you heard from the protester dressed up as a chicken, I know you admire the outfit so much.
Yes, I own 3.
Is that right?
Yes.
You look lovely.
I do.
You look marvelous. But anyway, it's a lot of this is anti-Trump. And don't forget, Ann Coulter, by the way, has written some very effective books challenging orthodoxies, including in the civil rights community that I admire. But Ann Coulter is someone who says, you know, basically stuff that, I mean, you would think it's ridiculous, like poll taxes. Let's bring back poll taxes, or guess what, we should kill foreign leaders and invade foreign countries and convert them all to Christians. But the point is, and this is what Kimberly was saying earlier, what's wrong with a debate?
Yeah.
I got fired. I've been tossed by the left-wing intolerance for honest statements and debates.
Yes.
So I have scars from this. I've written a book about this, and I'm going to tell you something. The fact is that free speech should not be attacked by the left. It is total hypocrisy when you see this coming from the left, even in an anti-Trump moment.
I hope the chicken suit lady's listening to you, Juan. That was very, very effective.
Chicken's coming home to roost.
Nice. Jesse,
yes.
It does prove, though, that the threat of violence works. I mean, there's no denying it.
Right.
They did this because they thought there was going to be trouble.
Right, and they caved to the mob, and the mob won, and now the mob is emboldened, and it sets a very dangerous precedent. I looked on the Berkeley website today. I had a lot of time on my hands. And they have safe spaces for just about anybody. They have safe spaces for Muslims. They have safe spaces for undocumented students. They have safe spaces for American Indians. But they don't have a safe space for a conservative. And the problem was they didn't think they could protect Ann Coulter. And I believe they couldn't protect her either because it was incompetence or they didn't want to protect Ann Coulter. But either way, the mob won. And even the ACLU sticks up for Ann Coulter. So what they could have done, they could have brought in metal detectors. They could have brought up a beefed-up security presence. They could have had cameras. They could have threatened these students or any activists. If you're going to do this, we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. They could have brought in bikers for Trump around, you know,
that
scare people a little bit. You know what I mean? They could have done a lot of stuff, but now Berkeley looks weak because they couldn't handle it.
You know, and I imagine they were worried about it, what happens outside the campus on the street, but that's why you have law enforcement.
Right.
Dana, Berkeley gets taxpayer funding. It's a public school. I'm a proud alumni, or is it alumnus?
I never know.
I don't either. It shows you my education.
They've disavowed you, just
yes,
so
they
you
pretend
know.
I never went
You
there.
donate a lot?
Yeah, I donate nothing to that college. Yes. Anyway, Berkeley should provide security. They're a public school. They have
It's just, this whole thing is really bizarre. And when you just said something, though, when you were talking about how, in your monologue about violence, that's what terrorists do. Terrorists use violence to advance their political agenda.
Right.
That is actually the textbook of what they do. And I think that this is very similar to that. I'm not saying that I'm not saying the left are terrorists, but that is the same aim. And it is exactly what our founding fathers knew would be a problem. Right. That if you had free speech, you could advance a society and grow the greatest country the world has ever seen. Well, and I would bet that these students would probably march for other countries' free speech rights.
Yeah, well, there are some countries that infringe on rights they don't really care about.
But they don't care about. But if there was
like Sharia law.
Like in the student lounge at Berkeley, where you went.
Yeah.
If there was like a note, hey, please, let's get together and we will fight, let's march for people's rights and women's rights in Saudi Arabia. They might show up for that.
They? I don't know. But they would show up if you said, let's march for women's rights in Trump land.
Right.
Like in Trump's America.
Trump.
Like, if the Handmaid's Tale, the world is going to hell under Trump. But then you go, no, actually, gays are being executed in this country. Women are being stoned in this country. They're like, but that's not under Trump. So I don't get any
but how
virtue
sad is
signaling.
this? Like, Janet Napolitano, what an epic fail on her part. If anybody should have a little bit of a more global and mature understanding of how to protect free speech and students, you think it would be her. And UC Berkeley, I went to UC Davis. Everybody
Not as good,
knew,
but it's a good school.
Oh, please,
Safety
top 3%
school.
in the country. Give me a break. So the thing is, if you go to a school like that, and especially Berkeley, that's always been known sort of as like the beacon, the shining light of free speech and all the protests and marches at Berkeley. Would they want to be censored and say, you know what, I'm so sorry, it's just too expensive to hear you talk?
Now, I gotta say,
protect them.
I'm listening to all of you. I'm so proud tonight that you guys are standing up for free speech, because I remember when people at those Trump rallies used to say things that people didn't like. Oh, and they'd punch them and knock them down.
That was
Those were paid protesters hired by the DNC.
I see.
We caught your side on tape.
And when you guys want to have a conversation about things like debt and deficit, especially, don't talk about it. Let's not bring that up.
Are you kidding?
Oh, no. Or,
What
We love
area?
talking about the debt and the deficit. Have you been watching Fox News for the last 10 years?
How about when police abuse their power and hurt and kill black people? Let's not talk about it.
We don't talk about that. I think we did a segment on the 5 every day for the summer of last year.
Yeah, all we do is we say, oh, cops are right, and if you really believe in law and order, back the...
All right.
The silent majority, believe me, is conservative and often silencing just as much.
Juan, okay, why would you think that we would take the side of the police? Because the mainstream media doesn't, so we are providing the fair and balanced approach. You might say on this table, we aren't fair. What we're trying to do is actually provide fairness in the greater context of the news. That's why we'd say enough with law enforcement.
And you think that the middle class in America doesn't like police? I think people love it.
You know what?
No, I'm talking about the media.
I don't think the media.
And Juan, you know what the Berkeley
Oh
police are operating under? The let them have space to riot situation. Those are the orders from the top. And then the campus police are operating under stand down orders. They can't engage any of these radical violent protesters unless someone's life is in imminent danger. So they let this chaos explode. If they had been tougher in the beginning, none of this would have ever happened.
This takes us back to like the 70s and Ed Meese on the campuses out in California when Ronald Reagan was governor. And you know, they went in, they said, hey, the cops, go get them.
No, but now it's become anything goes, and they riot, they break the law, they commit acts of violence, the destruction of property.
Those people should be arrested.
They should be prosecuted, and the cops should move in and take care of it. And that's what they're paid to do. That's upholding the law. That's enforcing the law. That's what makes public safety work and communities safe and protect your right to speak.
I agree.
And Jesse's and everybody else.
Except for me. Dana?
Well,
well, if you had something good
didn't
to say.
mean to avoid your question earlier about the public university.
I noticed that.
So this is taxpayer funded, right? Yep. There was a study that came out today. It was printed on the front page of the business section of the Wall Street Journal. 60% of graduates who are graduating this year are not ready to take the jobs that are available. So we have a better economy, and they can't actually do the jobs that are available to them. That's actually what the university should be thinking about.
Yeah.
And critical thinking skills and being able to handle your emotions.
Yes.
This sounds so bizarre to have to talk about this with college students. Like, whatever happened to just not going to the speech if you don't like it?
No, that's true. That's the easiest decision. And the other thing, too, is the threat of violence was how communist countries, socialist countries, kept people from actually protesting. Those are the very same countries that leftists romanticize. Look at Venezuela. Venezuela is crumbling, and you don't even hear about it. There's nobody on campus talking about the fact that protesters are dying in Venezuela, which is the product of a socialist country, of a horrible system.
We should do a segment on that.
We need to go.
I'm going to do that tomorrow.